Faz o que tu queres, a ser tudo da lei. Amor é a lei, amor sob vontade. 93. I'm here with Marco Visconti. Marco, thanks for accepting this invitation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Marco is the author of the Aleister Crowley manual or the Aleister Crowley handbook. What's the correct name?
No, it's the Aleister Crowley Manual, right? That is,
Manual. Okay.
yeah,
Because
that's the title that.
okay.
Sorry.
There was a tentative title of Aleister Crowley handbook, wasn't it? I read about it, this title
Oh,
somewhere.
the tentative title that I wanted was Thelema After Tears. To
I
be fair.
know. I remember that you were.
Yeah.
Let's start by that. You're okay. You have a book. That the very title of the book you accepted to change it.
Hmm.
For the publishing house
Hmm.
found it a more alluring title or
Yeah.
whatever, saw your title. I mean, I'm on this business of books for more than 30 years, and I started out, publishing with the biggest publishing house in Brazil. So I do know how these things work. So I wasn't surprised and I didn't judge you. I understand the situation. So tell me about it. How was it for you to have this concept of this book and, with this title, and you accepted to change the title
Hmm.
for a more commercial approach?
Yep.
Tell me about it.
Well, I never envisioned myself to be an author, to be a writer. As I actually put in the introduction of the book itself, back when I wrote it, which is now like 4 years ago, I didn't like writing, like in the sense that I knew I was okay at it, not great, not horrible. I was fine. I was doing a decent job enough, but I didn't enjoy writing. I would say that has changed now. Now, 4 years later, I find writing to be a very, like the medium I prefer, right? But back then wasn't the case. And I never envisioned, as I said, to become an author. My background of, for the longest time, I've been a professional musician, like yourself. And so, like that, I always express myself not through writing, but through music. What happened there is that when I resigned from Ordo Templi Orientis, or the Caliphate OTO, if you want to call it that, in 2018, I felt the strong need, if you want to say maybe like I felt that it was my will to write about my ordeals, why I joined, why I left, what I saw, and everything. And so that was the first time when I sit down and I was like, okay, let's organize my thoughts and let's put it out so that people can understand what I'm going through. Fast forward a few years, it's 2020, it's the pandemic, we're all, locked in our houses, we cannot go out. And I lost my job. Like at the time, I was working in consulting, finance, let's say logistic consulting. It was financial a little bit, but like everything shuts down. I don't have a job anymore. It's like, all right, like I need to find a way to pay my bills, right?
That
And
was in
so
London. That was in
yeah,
London,
yeah,
not in
yes,
Italy.
in London, yeah.
You're originally from Italy, but you moved to London when?
So I'm originally from Rome, Italy. I lived most of my life around the world as a musician, and
Okay.
then I basically much like around 15 years ago, I started slowing down as a musician. Eventually, then I would quit like, or go into a hiatus in 2016. But I moved, and then I decided to move to London. So it's been around 15 years that I've been living in London
Okay.
right now. So. And so I mean, like I said, it's 2020, it's the pandemic. That job is gone. I need to find a new way to pay my bills, and I noticed that we were living a time of extreme expansion. Like I called it like a magical revival, right? Like there's like I'm pretty sure you've seen it yourself over the years. Like around every 15 years, 20 years, there's this magical revival. There's a
Yeah.
new interest, and things come along, and for a while, in between 2014 2014 and 2018, end of 2018, I was also working here in London at Treadwell's, like let's say like as an extra job, as a second job, if you want. And Treadwell's bookshop is one of the three famous esoteric bookshops in London. And so I had kind of had the pulse on what was going on in what I call occulture, like this occult culture. And I saw that there was this big interest from the public, from the mainstream, into the occult, mostly witchcraft, Wicca, witchcraft, but also ceremonial magic, the Grimoire revival, and Thelema. 2020, I'm not working at Treadwell's anymore. I lost my other job, and I'm noticing that a lot of people are making money, are making their job to become divulgators, or if you want to call it, use the term, content creators online. And so I decided, let's give it a go. What I
start doing right now.
Exactly. No. And like if you think about it, like 5 years ago, nobody had an understanding of what it would be, to be a content creator, an occult content creator online. Now we take it for granted now because, of course, things have evolved or devolved depending on how you want to look at it. But things are like the landscape has changed.
Yes.
Exactly, drastically, right? So anyway, I decided to give it a go, and at the same time, I'm also finding that so right before the pandemic hit, I was working with a group of people in person, and basically we were trying to revitalize an alternative to Ordo Templi Orientis in the shape of an exoteric religious organization, like the Ordo Templi Orientis as the Ecclesia Gnostica Catholica.
After or before you fell off with OTO?
Right after, right? Okay. Because my idea is like, okay, if the OTO cannot do what it's supposed to do, which is my understanding.
I mean, many orders can adopt it. I mean, it's not an exclusive from OTO.
So and the thing is that like I have a Gnostic lineage from Michael Berthiaud. I'm a Gnostic bishop. This was like besides the OTO, right? So I was given the keys, if you want, of Ecclesia Gnostica Universalis, which is another branch of a Thelemic Gnostic church. Sure. And the idea is that we were trying to put it together to the point that we secured a 3-story building in a very nice area here in London. So we were ready to go. Like, we're going to build our temple, we're going to go there. And this was literally 1 week before the pandemic hit.
Wow.
That happened, that was gone. It was terrible timing. So these are all the strands, right? Like, so I need to sustain myself because I don't have a job anymore. I'm stuck at home. I have this idea of teaching Thelema, or at least giving an accessible entry point to Thelema that it's besides the OTO. And I decide to try the approach of the online content creator. And so I start writing, right? And at the very beginning, that writing was basically weekly newsletters and weekly live streams on Zoom, by the way, like we're doing now, teaching the absolute basics of Thelema. In terms of Thelema, think Liber O, think Liber E, the absolute basics. And my point was like, one big entry point that I always found out for new Thelemites, were the fact that lots of people got lost into try to read all of Crowley, got lost into try to understand right away, the parables of Liber 65 or the intricacies of the Book of Lies. But at the core of it, if my point was like, hey, how about we start doing? Especially because everybody is stuck at home, you all kind of need an anchor to stay safe. How about we start breathing together? We start learning what pranayama means. We start learning what asana means, right? We start learning, then step by step, we're gonna start bringing a little bit of ritual. And so, the middle pillar, Liberesh, eventually the pentagrams, eventually down the line, the hexagrams. And from 2020 to 2022, pretty much every day, in a group that at first we were like 10 people, we ended up being over 300 people at some point, like at the top, like when the pandemic was. We were doing this work all the time together online. We had a huge Discord server. We had two or three live streams a week. Eventually, I started doing YouTube, etc. So it got bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And this is what eventually prompted me to, at some point, one of my students told me, you always say you don't want to write a book. Do you realize that you already have a book? Because all the lessons, all the recordings that you have produced for this community, online community, in the last 2 years, that's a book. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so, of course, that's how the book came to be. The reason, my original title, as I mentioned earlier on, was Thelema After Tears, because I wanted to find
very good title, actually.
yeah, I wanted to find like a tongue-in-cheek reference, of course, to Magic Without Tears. And my point that I would have explained in the introduction was like, in this day and age, if you want to engage with Thelema, expect to cry a lot. But but there is
that's why I like it. I didn't get that the publishing house, they asked you to change the title. So
Well, I mean, I can explain why. Like, honestly, and I can tell you also what's going to happen with the next title, with the book that's coming out in December, because that happened there as well. They flat out told me, nobody knows you, but everybody knows Aleister Crowley, and this is a very good book. This book will sell, but the name of Aleister Crowley must be there. And I'll be honest with you, like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust. Watkins is, I mean, that was my publisher. Watkins is one of the oldest esoteric publishers. They have a very big backing. They have a massive distribution channels. They you can find my book in Barnes and Nobles in the United States, which is a massive market. You can find my
that
book
matters a lot. Yeah.
yeah, it's all these things, right? And I mean, truth be told, they were right, because the book has sold over 15,000 copies now, which for me, being a first-time author, writing about something that's accessible but incredibly niche, because I'm not promising healing, I'm not promising extraterrestrials, even if I do touch on Lam in the book. I'm not promising all those maybe quote unquote new age topics that sell. I'm basically promising something very strange about a guy that it's seen very badly by the wider population, even to this day.
Yeah.
And so I think the book has sold well, but I gotta be honest, it has sold well so far, and it keeps on selling. Like, it keeps on selling. It never stopped selling because of the title. And I think, I would say also because they decided to have this very garish. Also, the cover idea that I had was very different. My cover idea was very all black with a Knubis, like, a lion serpent image on the cover. They say, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. And I was like, you know what? I tend to be, all my life, I've been always like very, like, I had an idea and we're going to do it the way I say it. This time, I was like, you know what? I know nothing about publishing. I decided to sign up with a publisher as opposed to doing it on my own, because again, I was looking into that as well, self-publishing. I'm going to trust their better judgment. And to be fair, they were right. Then again, this time around, I got the cover I wanted.
Title like the Aleister Crowley manual. You can't find this title. I mean, everybody who is into Aleister Crowley will know about
at least
it.
Be,
Want to know
at least
it.
be exactly. At least be curious about it, right? Like I said, like, I wrote this second book now that it's being released again by Watkins in December, and it will also have already an Italian version as well, because my first book did very well in Italy as well, and now it's doing very well in Poland. Anyway, that book would have it's kind of like the second part. Like, if the Aleister Crowley manual is the absolute beginner practices, and let's say, like I said, you go from nothing to the hexagram rituals, and you have just like a whiff of what actual Thelema is about. This second book, it's about how you go from there to start crafting your ritual towards the Holy Guardian Angel, right? So it goes much deeper into philosophy, into theology. And my title for this was Awakening the Angel, a little bit AA, like awakening the angel. Of course, they say nope. This so
What's the
this
problem
will
with
be
this
called.
one now?
Now it's to nobody will understand what it's about. Like
Ah, okay.
because
Too
if you
artsy
speak
or something.
in a way, like, and if you speak of angels, they told me they think like the average person will think of either like Christian angels or New Age angels, like
Of
like
course.
angel numbers and things like that, right?
You're not talking
So
necessarily to Thelemites, of course.
precisely. So this time is going to be Aleister Crowley's Mysticism, a practical guide.
Ah,
Again, not my
again, the
not my
name of the
title,
guy is
but
right
sempre the
on
name.
top of it.
Exactly. At least this time around, the cover, like the lion serpent is there, and my illustrations, not mine, these two illustrations that I contracted, they were going to be there. So I had a little bit more say this time because, as we know from business, when you prove that you can make money to other people, they start listening to you. It's as brutal as it is, but
Yeah.
that's the reality of that. So this is it in a nutshell, right? This is the genesis of how this book came to be and why I guess we're even here talking. Like what got me here, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I first heard of you through Rafael, this friend in common, and he told me about the Alice Crowley manual. I haven't read it yet, but he told me it was very good and stuff. And but as we were talking before we started this recording this interview, I actually recalled that I heard from you before when you were involved with the Post-Thelema Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I would like you to ask you to explain to us about, I mean, to us all about this. What was this? Because, as correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it's really on anymore. I mean, as a manifesto, I mean, it was more controversial and more effervescent, I would say, when it first came out. And so I have heard about it and everything. And I wanted you to uh, talk about it a little because it was not very clear what it was meant to be. Because I myself
Mm-hmm.
found a little bit weird the tone of some people who followed the manifesto. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
specifically you, but some guys, unpleasant guys, some unpleasant people, I would say, started using that like to Crowley witch hunt, so to speak, which I found very silly. Especially
So
right now, I mean, and I would like to ask you about it. And if don't you think it's a little bit ironic that, and I mean that I'm not being, as I said, I'm not being nasty. I just find this. I think the gods are nasty, the goddesses are nasty. Nuit is can be nasty. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
Rahuit is sure nasty. So don't you think it's a bit ironic that you first came to light in the occult scene, so to speak, in a wider way. So even myself in Brazil, I mean, I'm in Uruguay right now, but I'm a Brazilian, and I heard of you from you and everything. And first, associated with this post-Thelema, which was apparently somewhat trying to cancel Crowley and stuff. Which is a little
Mm-hmm.
bit ironic that you are, both of your books, it was like, okay, big boy, you are, I found it, I mean, not literally, but I hope you understand my sense of humor about it, but it's a little bit like if Crowley, like the big beast, was like, okay, so this is you who wants to take my name off like post-Thelema. So take my name on your top of your books like twice. I found it hilarious, don't you?
So I mean, you're making a very good point here, right? I think that what needs to be said is that I never meant the Post-Delmic Manifesto to become, for a short amount of time, the most talked thing on internet Thelema. I never expected it. It came to be out of that online community that I talked to you about, right? And I guess this was 2021. It was January or February 2021. So we're talking 4 years ago, at the height of that community. So that's a moment where the Discord server has 500 people in it. The Patreon has 300 people. Like it's nonstop, right? Like to the point that eventually I closed the Discord server because it was crazy. Like there was like drama all the time. You know how it's these things, right?
Too much
But
drama.
it was very much alive. It was also the moment where literally height of the pandemic, everybody was terminally online, including me. Everybody needed constantly something to wrap their mind around. So I decided to, again, possibly in a very, very bombastic approach of writing a manifesto, I decided to put down some ideas. And that idea fundamentally was an idea that I always had in contrast to the Crowleyites of Ordo Templi Orientis. In OTO, you basically sign up to the Crowley Fan Club, okay? There's very little how do you say, latitude for experimenting. There's almost like a ban on the
Orientis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go. Sure.
There's it's about
yes.
it's only that like you cannot really discuss. I mean, this will change from place to place, lodge to lodge, but I've been around and I can tell like the overall sentiment is that it's Crowley. Even if then they, like the Ordo Templi Orientis, doesn't do anything to, teach what Crowley actually wanted, the initiates of Ordo Templi Orientis to learn. For instance, the invitation to the higher degrees is super limited. Some people will never see anything. Everybody is stuck at the degrees from 0 to 3, etc. So the reason that I was behind that, it was like, okay, it was something that was kind of started as a joke in my community. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to write something. And basically we're going to make the point that instead of like just going along with the gospel of OTO, that must be only Crowley and nothing else, how about we keep Crowley as the starting point, the prophet of Thelema, but we also start to analyze the work of the other Thelemites that came along. For instance, let's start to engage honestly, without witch hunts of any kind, with the works of Kenneth Grant, with the works of Michael Berthiaud, Michael would never call himself a Thelemite, by the way, but most people will still think of him as a Thelemite. The works of Marcello Motta, the works of even like
Marcello Motta is a forbidden name in the OTO, and you know that.
Yeah, exactly. But my point was this, right? Okay, we are at the time I was writing, we're approaching 120 years of Thelema.
Them on a lodge,
Yeah. Of course, I know. So back then I was like, we are approaching 120 years of Thelema, and of course 120 is an important number. It's a Rosicrucian number. Christian Rosenkreuz, the opening of the Pastos, etc. Mm-hmm. It's time that I think I actually even mentioned, not in the manifesto per se, but in the commentary around the manifesto, we're not here to cancel Crowley. We're here to say, hey, this is if this is meant to be a live current, a live tradition, then there must be other voices. There must be other thinkers. And there have been already. I'm not even talking about contemporary living right now, but there have been through the history. There's been Frater Progradio, there's been Frater Akkad, there's been etc. Many, like Alostroel, Laila, all these figures in Thelema. How about we start putting all of them on the pedestal as well, to go against the grain, against the gospel of OTO that tells you it's only Crowley, nothing else. Because again, if this is true, then I don't see it as a living tradition, and I see it just yet another cult of personality. That was the idea behind the Post-Delmic Manifesto. What happened there? Possibly because, again, we were at the height of the terminally online experience, so everybody was looking for drama, really, is that this was picked up by a series of younger influencers. Not gonna name names, but
I do
everybody knows
remember that.
knows the type. And these people were basically in two categories. One was maybe the biggest name was this young woman that basically created her entire brand about creating drama, like fostering drama, creating drama, and it works very well because again, that's what works on social media, rage bait, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
OnlyFans
then
works too. I mean, everything can
exactly.
work. It depends what you're up to, what, right?
What you're up, I would say so. And then the other approach, the other category that picked it up, where I don't know, almost like a series of, again, I would say like younger people on the, let's say the term woke left side of things,
Hmm.
that I think mistook my message for, Crowley is evil. Crowley was a racist, a fascist, a nationalist, etc., etc. Let's cancel it. Now, this also happened because fast, going back in time from
Weren't you
2021.
frustrated by that?
I was frustrated by everything, but what can you do? Like at that point, it was when I started criticizing these people, and these were all these younger influence. I'm 47. There's all people that are like 20 odd years
Well,
younger than me.
I'm 57 when this comes to
Okay, so
yeah.
so basically, I mean, like I think we're in the same generation. All these people were in a much younger generation. Up until that point, I was seen as a positive figure, an innovator, like a man, a white, middle-aged, heterosexual man that was somehow speaking for the more woke aspects of occultism. I don't think I was, but definitely since I am very anti-fascist, as we discussed earlier on, maybe like there, I was much more leaning in that direction, absolutely. But as this controversy, as all these various influencers, especially this younger woman, decided to talk about it, I started telling them. I mean, these people were on my Discord server at the time. I was like, I don't know, maybe we're not good. Maybe we're not. You guys didn't understand what I was talking about. And so it started like the communication started breaking there. And then, lo and behold, a few months later, I suddenly became the target. I became, the misogynist monster that betrayed the new current, etc., etc. So I don't know why there's this thing there. Okay, so
I don't know what happened. Okay, go ahead.
so this is this is how it all unfolded. What's interesting also is that as this was going on, let's say on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, on the other side we had people from the OTO writing under pseudonyms because, of course, the OTO folks are almost invariably cowards. They will almost never tell you. They will never come with your faces because they're cowards at the end of the day. They started writing articles on this website called Thelemic Union, which was Thelemic Union is this website that is hosted by this guy called EAO131, an American guy. But originally, Thelemic Union was a Facebook group that I co-founded with him and others when we were all resigning from OTO in 2017, 2018. He eventually took the name and made a website, and I was writing for Thelemic Union at the time, like from time to time, like some bits and pieces. And then 2021 now,
I visited the
while
site quite a few times back then.
yeah, and basically like these OTO folks started because again the policy of Thelemic Union is that we're gonna publish everything. We're not gonna censor anyone. If you can string to thoughts together, we're gonna publish it.
Do they stick to it? Really?
I mean, I was never part of the of the editorial team. I had nothing to do with Thelemic Union, the website. so I cannot tell you. But honestly, given the amount of shit they published, I think that eventually they were sticking to it, right?
Yeah.
And some of what they published was a couple of hit
Or
pieces
maybe they
against.
do it to make it seem so.
Possibly. But they published a couple of hit pieces against the Post-Delmic Manifesto. But this was written not by those younger influencer types maybe on the woke side that I told you before. This was written by ultra reactionary, bordering on fascist audio folks that again where their criticism was like, see, this is yet another person that left the OTO and is now like wanting to cash upon Crowley's name, and it's all about ego, it's all about market share, and it was ridiculous, right? Like at the core of the Post-Delmic Manifesto, if you're curious, if the listeners are curious, a few months ago, like literally on the occasion of the 5th anniversary of that moment, I wrote a new pieces on Substack. I now write very often on Substack. I wrote something like a new look at the Post-Delmic Manifesto, and therein I explain everything I told you.
That. I'm gonna look for it.
Yeah, I can send you a link, but it's on my Substack. And the point that I make in that piece, which is quite long to be fair, it's like 4 years later, I think that somehow I never expected this little piece of writing to get the attention it got eventually, but I think that we are in a position where those who are now interested in Thelema, which are very, very fewer than before, but those who are interested in Thelema are open to the idea that while Crowley is first principles, like you got to start with it, you cannot avoid reading Crowley, try to understand Crowley. There's also an avenue for explorations of different thinkers. And that was it, pretty much. Now to wrap this up, yes, when I have the email exchanges with the publisher where I was saying, guys, I really don't want to publish this book with Aleister Crowley in the name because I just wrote this thing called the Post-Delmic Manifesto last year, and they were like, you know what, we don't care. And again,
it's a problem.
I'm gonna be honest with you and honest with our listeners here. At that point, I was like, I need this book to be out, and it's a good contract. This might become eventually my career, which has become my career ever since. And I was like, if people will have a problem with the fact that they will think that I wasn't sticking to my guns, like they can listen to what I have to say or no, because at the end of the day, people either are willing to listen to you or they're not.